Tonight, we're tracking a story with profound implications for every American, one that could reshape the very foundation of our economy and the global order as we know it. China is methodically preparing to detonate an $8 trillion financial bomb, right now, not in some distant future. This isn't a far-off threat or a hypothetical scenario. It's a real unfolding strategy that could send shockwaves through every household, business, and government in the United States and beyond. This move directly targets the US dollar and the intricate global system built around it, threatening to trigger a financial collapse that could ripple from New York to London and from Tokyo to Sydney. The world's economic stability, long anchored by the dollar, is suddenly in jeopardy. For decades, the West operated under the assumption that economic partnership with China would foster a friendlier, more open global player. The belief was that trade and investment would encourage China to embrace the rules and norms of the international community. But that was a grave miscalculation, one that has left the West dangerously exposed. Instead of integrating, China has been quietly building its own playbook, one that leverages our openness and trust against us. China wasn't integrating, it was infiltrating, studying our systems, learning our weaknesses, and building tools to turn our strengths into vulnerabilities. From technology to finance, every sector has been scrutinized and, in some cases, compromised. This is not conspiracy, but strategy, a long-term plan now entering its endgame. Every move has been calculated, every step designed to maximize leverage at the critical moment. At the core of this plan is a massive, coordinated shift of assets, an unprecedented maneuver in the world of global finance. China's $8 trillion in US dollar-denominated assets, including treasury bonds, is now a weapon. What was once a symbol of mutual trust and economic interdependence has become a loaded gun pointed at the heart of the Western financial system. What was once mutual dependence is now a lever of financial coercion. With a single move, China could destabilize markets, spike interest rates, and send the dollar into free fall. While Western leaders debate tariffs and trade deals, the real, systemic threat is being overlooked. The focus remains on short-term disputes, while the long-term danger grows ever more imminent. This is a calculated assault on the financial architecture that has underpinned global prosperity since World War II. The very system that lifted millions out of poverty and created decades of stability is now under siege. If China's plan succeeds, the consequences would be catastrophic: hyperinflation, a sovereign debt crisis, and the unraveling of the safety nets that protect ordinary people. We could see a dramatic decline in living standards, with families forced to make impossible choices as prices soar and jobs disappear. Tonight we reveal how we got here, the warning signs we missed, and what comes next in this high-stakes economic showdown. Stay with us as we uncover the truth behind the $8 trillion economic time bomb. To understand China's strategy, you need to recognize a four-step playbook used by rising powers to challenge the dominant ones. Step 1. Dual dependency. Both sides build deep economic ties. One becomes the workshop, the other the financier. Step 2. Asymmetric accumulation. The rising power quietly amasses the dominant power's currency and debt, running huge trade surpluses. The dominant power grows addicted to cheap goods and easy credit, while its own industry erodes. Step 3. Strategic repositioning. The challenger builds parallel systems, diversifying reserves, creating new payment networks, securing resources. All this is done quietly, under the guise of partnership. The goal: become immune to the dominant power's economic weapons. Step 4. Controlled demolition. The rising power undermines the dominant system, selling off currency and debt, creating panic and instability. Interest rates spike, confidence collapses, and the challenger offers a new global anchor. This isn't a random crash, it's a deliberate, engineered collapse. China is following this playbook to perfection. The warning signs are flashing. The final stage is near. This pattern isn't new. Look at Britain and Germany before World War I. Germany began as Britain's manufacturing partner, with deep economic ties and optimism about peace. But Germany's industrial might soon outpace Britain's, shifting the balance. Germany accumulated capital and power, funding a massive military expansion. It built its own banking and shipping networks, seeking independence from London. The naval arms race and colonial competition followed. Economic interdependence became rivalry, then crisis. World War I preempted the final economic showdown, but the pattern was clear. Economic ties, once seen as a guarantee of peace, became the catalyst for conflict and the end of British dominance. The US and Japan followed a similar pattern after World War II. The US rebuilt Japan, creating deep economic ties. Japan became the world's factory, America the consumer. Japan ran massive trade surpluses, accumulating US dollars and buying up American assets. The US industrial heartland hollowed out, while Japan's influence soared. Japan's government pushed to dominate high-tech sectors and set its own global standards. There was talk of the yen challenging the dollar, but the US intervened with the Plaza Accord, forcing Japan to strengthen its currency and ending the era of asymmetric accumulation. Japan's asset bubble burst, halting its challenge. The US broke the pattern, but China was watching and learning. The lesson: economic rivalry can escalate quickly, and decisive action can change the outcome. China is determined not to repeat Japan's mistakes. Russia's relationship with Europe, especially Germany, is a focused example of this pattern. Centered on energy, Europe became dependent on Russian gas, dismantling its own energy infrastructure. Russia accumulated leverage, while Europe grew vulnerable. Russia used energy as a political weapon, cutting off supplies to exert pressure. It built new pipelines and de-dollarized its economy, preparing for confrontation. In 2022, Russia turned off the gas, triggering an energy crisis and recession in Europe. The dependency meant to ensure peace became a weapon of economic war. Russia's strategy inflicted immense pain on a powerful bloc. The lesson asymmetric dependence can be weaponized at any moment. China has taken note. China has executed this four-step playbook on a scale never seen before in modern history. The transformation is not just economic, but strategic, reshaping the global order in ways that are only now becoming clear to the rest of the world. Stage 1. Dual dependency. In the early 2000s, the West eagerly built factories in China, drawn by the promise of cheap labor and efficient production. This partnership flooded Western markets with affordable goods, fueling consumer economies and corporate profits. But while Western companies gained low-cost products, China gained something far more valuable: access to global capital, advanced technology, and crucially, the US dollar system. This set the stage for a dramatic shift in economic power. Stage 2. Asymmetric accumulation. China began running massive trade surpluses, exporting far more than it imported. The result? The world's largest stockpile of foreign currency reserves, most of it parked in US treasuries, giving China enormous leverage over global finance. As China's reserves soared, the US became the world's biggest debtor, increasingly reliant on Chinese capital to finance its deficits. China, in turn, became America's largest creditor, holding a powerful card in the global economic game. Stage 3. Strategic repositioning. Recognizing the risks of dependency, China launched Made in China 2025, a bold initiative to leapfrog into advanced manufacturing and end reliance on Western technology. The goal: to dominate industries of the future, from robotics to artificial intelligence. Simultaneously, the Belt and Road Initiative was unveiled, aiming to weave a vast Beijing-centered trade network across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Through massive infrastructure projects, China is binding dozens of countries into its economic orbit. To further reduce vulnerability, China built its own payment system, CIPS, as an alternative to the Western-dominated SWIFT network, ensuring its financial transactions can continue even if cut off from the West. At the same time, China has aggressively promoted the yuan in global trade, signing currency swap agreements and encouraging its use in international settlements, slowly chipping away at the dollar's dominance. Quietly, China has been reducing its holdings of US treasuries, unwinding its exposure to American debt and lessening its dependence on the dollar. In parallel, China has gone on a gold-buying spree, amassing vast reserves of the precious metal as a hedge against financial instability and as a foundation for future monetary ambitions. The strategy is clear: convert paper claims into hard assets, gold, commodities, and infrastructure projects around the world. These tangible resources provide security and influence that paper money cannot. The ultimate goal? Invulnerability. China is building a fortress of economic and strategic strength, ensuring it cannot be easily threatened or coerced before making its final, decisive move on the world stage. This is the classic playbook of rising powers, executed with extraordinary patience, discipline, and precision. Decades of planning are now coming to fruition. Only now is the West beginning to grasp the scale and sophistication of China's strategy. The realization is sparking anxiety in boardrooms and government offices across the developed world. The final stage is approaching. The world stands at a crossroads, with the balance of power shifting before our eyes. The world is on the brink of a new era, one shaped by China's relentless pursuit of economic and strategic perfection. Let's take a closer look at what China is doing right now, in 2026, a year that's shaping up to be a turning point in global economics and power dynamics. First, China is dumping US debt at an unprecedented pace. Officially, their holdings have dropped below $780 billion. But analysts believe the real figure is even lower, as much of the offloading happens quietly, away from the public eye. By quietly selling off US treasuries, China is undermining a key pillar of the American financial system. This move puts pressure on US borrowing costs and signals to other nations that the dollar's dominance is no longer guaranteed. Second, China is hoarding gold at a scale never seen before. As both the world's top producer and importer, China's true gold reserves may now exceed 30,000 tons, far surpassing official disclosures. Gold is the ultimate hedge, money outside any government's control. By amassing gold, China is insulating itself from currency shocks and building a foundation for a new financial order. Third, China is building an alternative global financial system. Its CIPS payment network is rapidly expanding, allowing countries to settle trade directly in yuan, bypassing the dollar and the traditional SWIFT system. The digital yuan is now being tested for cross-border trade, enabling seamless transactions that completely bypass Western banks and sanctions. This digital currency is poised to become a powerful tool for international commerce. Fourth, China is securing real, tangible assets around the world. Through its massive Belt and Road Initiative, it's locking up vital resources, oil, gas, minerals, and farmland across Asia, Africa, and beyond. While the West has been preoccupied with financial engineering and speculation, China has been quietly buying up the real things that economies need to function and grow. In effect, China is trading paper promises for tangible assets, ensuring its own supply chain security, and gaining strategic leverage over key industries and regions. These moves are not just theoretical. They're unfolding right now, reshaping the global economic landscape in real time. China is preparing for a world beyond the dollar, positioning itself to lead in a new era where economic power is more evenly distributed. Meanwhile, the West is running out of time to formulate a coherent response. The clock is ticking, and the consequences of inaction are mounting. The stage is set for the final act in this high-stakes economic drama. Every move from here on out will have far-reaching implications. The consequences of China's strategic repositioning will be global, affecting markets, governments, and everyday people everywhere. The world is watching, and the next chapter is about to begin. Now, the $8 trillion question. How does China use its financial arsenal? The final stage, controlled demolition, won't be a single event, but a series of calculated moves. First, China accelerates selling US debt, joined by BRICS plus nations shifting reserves into a new, gold-backed currency basket. A joint announcement would trigger a stampede out of US bonds, spiking interest rates and making US debt unmanageable. Next, China weaponizes trade, requiring key commodities to be settled in yuan, via CIPS. If oil is sold in yuan, the petrodollar system collapses, and global demand for dollars plummets. Trillions of dollars flood back to the US, causing uncontrollable inflation. Finally, China and its partners introduce a new reserve asset, a digital currency backed by commodities. For much of the world, this is an attractive alternative to a failing dollar. The US loses its privilege to print money at will. The era of dollar dominance ends. The global order is upended. The consequences will be felt by every American. This isn't a distant possibility, it's the logical outcome of a strategy unfolding for decades. The West's greatest strength, economic integration, has become its greatest vulnerability. The $8 trillion in assets is now a weapon pointed at the heart of our economy. A collapse in the dollar's value would mean hyperinflation, wiped out savings, and a deep depression. This is not fear-mongering, it's mathematical reality. When a reserve currency fails, the window to act is closing. We must recognize China as a strategic adversary, not just a competitor. That means rebuilding industry, securing supply chains, and preparing our financial system for shock. Complacency is no longer an option. History shows rising powers follow this pattern, and China fits it perfectly. The final stage is approaching. The question is not if, but when. The clock is ticking.